So, speaking of comporting himself, here's Joe saying something, and we're not sure what though. You've heard this, by the way. I know only probably on Fox News. You're not going to hear this on MSNBC or CBS or ABC or CNN. You're not going to. So Joe says something. We're not sure what though. I think I know what he was trying to say because he was reading from a teleprompter, so it wasn't like he was taking this off of the top of his head. It's just that I think his brain can't process after a certain time of day because he can only work maybe a solid 2 hours a day, and then after that second hour, it's like, all right, that's it, my brain's not working. So we have a clip on Joe Biden saying something. We don't know what it is, but here it is.
I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure.
So I will lead an effective, coalition for true international pressure. I think what he was trying to say is he would lead an international coalition to be able to put forth true international pressure. I think maybe that's what he was saying. Maybe he was referring to Iran or China, or I'm not really sure. But you heard that as clear as I did, and it makes no sense. Look, here's the question for you podcast listeners. Are you willing to have a president who talks that way for 4 years? And then the next question is, well, is it really going to be Kamala Harris then? Is it is 6 months into his presidency? You know, first of all, you got a Biden presidency. He gets, inaugurated. He gets sworn in. Then Kamala takes over. And when Kamala takes over, what is she going to do? What is she going to do? So podcast listeners, if you want to know what Kamala Harris is going to do, and you thought for 1 minute that the Mark and the Millennials podcast was maybe, exaggerating too much about how we think the Democrat Party has become the party of Marxism and communism, and they're out of touch and they're out of control, well, we have proof of it now with Kamala Harris. I do believe that she is the true Manchurian candidate that the left has been wanting for many years, other than Barack Obama. And she's the new Barack Obama. And she has proven it, Kamala has, because she just put out her own video. And it's animated, but she is, of course, narrating the video in her own voice. And it's a video called Equality versus Equity. I got to tell you something. We could do an entire podcast on this. And God help us if Joe Biden gets elected, because we're going to have to be doing that a lot. But here is Kamala Harris endorsing communism. And if you have an opportunity to see this podcast, you have to see this particular video. Listening to it is good enough too, but seeing it, you can see how incredibly dishonest and dumbed down it is for their voters. And it's called Equality versus Equity by Kamala Harris. It's out there now, and here's the clip.
So there's a big difference between equality and equity. Equality suggests, everyone should get the same amount. The problem with that, not everybody's starting out from the same place. So if we're all getting the same amount, but you started out back there and I started out over here, we can get the same amount, but you're still gonna be that far back behind me. It's about giving people the resources and the support they need so that everyone can be on equal footing and then compete on equal footing. Equitable treatment means we all end up at the same place.
So she starts out saying, well, it's equality versus equity. And on the equality side, here's the thing. It's not fair and it's not equitable that people start out life where one child grows up in a poor community and in a poor household, and another grows up in a rich household, and the rich household kids get to go to private school. She doesn't say private school, but I'm adding to her words because essentially this is what she's saying. And those kids in private school in the rich family have a much better opportunity to have a better life than the kids stuck in the really crummy, awful, failing public schools because they are in a poor family. Well, here's how you solve that. If you really want to equalize the opportunities that every American has at the starting gate of life, than you do that by school choice, so that the child in the poor family has an opportunity to go to a private school, just like the child in the rich family. And they do that, they're able to afford that because we give them school vouchers. We give the children in the poor families school vouchers so they can go to a school of their choice. And then what we're talking about at that point is equalizing children at the starting gate of life. And it's no longer about whether you're poor or rich. You know what it's about? It's about merit. Are you willing to do the work that it takes to get into that private school? Are you willing to do the work that it takes to stay in the private school because of the very high standards? Or do you not really care? And this is what Kamala doesn't get, because she is 100% against school vouchers, just like Barack Obama was. 100% against school vouchers. And then she goes on to say, well, that's first and foremost in her video, she says that's how you start out equalizing people, because you equalize them, at the beginning of life, and you give them that opportunity. Quite honestly, if we did that in education and just education, I would agree. Okay, but she doesn't want to do that. And then she goes on to say at the end of the video, well, yeah, when people are on top of that mountain, because there's a visual of these two people on top of the mountain, then they're equal. That's equity. She's confusing equity and equality, and it's intentional in the Democrat circles, right? Because what we should do is throw both of those words out and talk about opportunity and equalizing opportunity at the starting gate of life. And then after that starting gate of life, it's up to you, because it is up to you. It's up to you, it's up to your family, it's up to you whether you are going to be successful or whether you're not going to be successful. It's up to you whether you go to college or whether you want to be a tradesman. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's a good thing. But what Kamala is trying to do is to say that, oh, by the way, the person over here who worked 7 days a week and 10 hours a day and did not take vacations for 5 years and then bought a house in a nice suburb, that person is bad. And we must take from them to equalize the outcome, because the outcomes must also be equal. Outcomes are not supposed to be equal unless you live in a Marxist society. This is who Kamala Harris is. She believes that the United States of America should be converted to a Marxist society because outcomes should be equal. And the visual of her video, where at the end you're on top of that mountain, you got two people, they're exactly at the same level. You don't have one climbing the mountain. You don't have one sleeping on the side of the mountain, which is the real world, right? You got some people that just don't care. You got some people that do care. You have some people that work harder than others. You have some people that are smarter than others. And this is the same Democrat Party that's trying to dummy down the public school system by saying, oh, it's not fair, just like I talked about earlier. It's not fair that little Johnny got an F on his paper. I mean, no one should get an F. I beg to differ, because I will tell you that I know many people who have graduated from college and they're fresh out of college and they can't write anything. They just can't write. And that is a result of the really poor public education system, as well as the really poor college education system. If you can graduate from college and still not write, then I'm sorry, something is really wrong here. But that is the future of Kamala Harris's America, where everybody is treated the same no matter how much effort they put in. And that's what Karl Marx said, right? Karl Marx said that in perfect socialism and communism, each person can take according to their ability, can work according to their ability and take according to their need. You can work as hard as you want, but you can take as much as you want. So, why would you work then? Why would you work? You wouldn't work because someone else is going to do all the work and you just take all of the fruits of their labor. And that's the world that she wants to create. It hasn't worked in North Korea. It didn't work in the Soviet Union. It's not working in Cuba. It's clearly not working in Venezuela, but she wants to bring it here to the United States because, she's a really woke Californian. And ladies and gentlemen, podcast listeners, this could be the next president of the United States, Kamala Harris, because we know Joe Biden isn't going to last. And yet this is who we are talking about voting for? Are you kidding me? This is a brand new video. This is a brand new video that's out there. And it's all over Twitter and it's all over, various articles and so forth. But it just came out, and that's why we're talking about it. Because for the first time in this race, Kamala has actually revealed herself and trying to dummy down a video to explain to you why you should be exactly at the same level as everyone else, not just at the beginning of life, but at the end of life too. Outcomes should be the same, and at the beginning of life, at the starting gate, you should also be the same.